I have in my possession a secret map by the planners of the New World Order.
Because the global order is changing again.
A new world order.
You might remember in April of 2017, Trump saying he was a nationalist and a globalist, Americanism being code for a multipolar global government, which sounds a lot like what Zbigniew Brzezinski wrote of on the last page of the Grand Chessboard. He also wrote a book called The Choice, Global Domination or Global Leadership, where on page 149 he wrote that without a national base, globalization would not be a politically powerful and internationally controversial doctrine. Symbiosis with an established and powerful reality like American primacy, which is what he's referring to here, becomes integral to a doctrine's identity. And then on the next page it says the doctrine of globalization generates its own antithesis with the perceived fusion of globalization with Americanization serving as a catalyst for the emergence of a counter-creed that is simultaneously anti-globalist, in effect opposed to U.S. political primacy and anti-globalization.
The U.S. president has claimed that a new trade deal brokered between America, Canada and Mexico is truly historic and the biggest in U.S. history.
And right there it is. Globalist means U.S. political primacy, according to Zbigniew Brzezinski. So maybe that explains why Trump would say he's a nationalist and a globalist back in April of 2017. Evidently part of the multipolar globalist faction, we'll call them, as opposed to the unipolar globalist faction, and probably at this point they're best symbolized by the United Nations. And there's a very obvious gradual weakening of the United Nations that's been happening over the past several years. That's the breaking of the great horn of the he-goat written of in Daniel chapter 8 verse 8, in my opinion. But it's a self-inflicted break, obviously, because even though there appears to be two sides in opposition to one another, they're both after the same thing, which is the so-called New World Order. The Kenites at the top playing both sides against each other to carry out the negative part of God's plan. The he-goat is symbolic of the shadow government of the Kenites, but once the great horn of the he-goat is broken, they become the leopard of Daniel chapter 7 as well as Revelation 13 in the New World Order. So it's good cop, bad cop, basically, just as it is between the UN and Kenite-occupied Israel, and the anti-UN propaganda will continue, as well as the anti-Amero-globalist propaganda you see being spread throughout the internet. That's the pestilences of the end times, pestilences of deception, the four hidden dynasties creating a false reality within the minds of most people to get them to generate support for their agenda to create a one-world political system. And when the great horn is broken and the woe of the fifth trumpet transpires, when Satan and his angels are cast to earth, is when it'll all be merged together into the first beast of Revelation 13, the one-world political system, with a mouth like the mouth of a lion and feet like the feet of a bear. And then the deadly wound happens, and then Satan appears as Antichrist. On April 19th, Zero Hedge put out an article called Might the Russia-China-USA Alliance for Space Exploration Define the New World Order? And as you can see in the first paragraph, it says a new system will absolutely emerge from the currently collapsing one. But what remains to be seen is whether this new system will be shaped by those fascist, crisis-loving technocrats pushing for a unipolar world order, or whether it will be organized by sovereign nation-states working together under a multipolar community of principles. So there you have the two types of globalists right there. Not that there's ever been a so-called New World Order, but the plan has been altered is what the title has reference to by calling it the New World Order. But I disagree with that theory, because now that the World Health Organization has been defunded, the United Nations is that much closer to collapsing, which is again what Daniel chapter 8 verse 8 looks forward to, the breaking of the great horn of the he-goat that has to happen before the so-called New World Order can emerge at the beginning of the 5-month-long hour of temptation at the woe of the fifth trumpet. Remember, the fifth trumpet began to sound during Apollo 11 in 1969, so it stands to reason, if that be true, that the moon would play into the formation of the New World Order, which is the one-world political system of Revelation 13. Another article from April 19th, this time on the Wall Street Journal website, says Trump opens outer space for business, an executive order in a prospective international agreement aimed to make celestial mining an attractive investment. And to go back to the origin of the space programs, as you can see in the Daniel 11 hypothesis on biblicalresearchlabs.com, the events of World War II are foretold of in verses 10 through 12 of Daniel chapter 11, the two world wars which were followed by the United Nations coming into being, and the space race phase of the Cold War began at that time between the King of the North, which at the time was the Soviet Union, and the King of the South, which went from being Germany to the United States in 1945. German rocket scientists being divided up between Russia and America at that time, resulting in Apollo 11 in 1969, cementing America's position as the #1 superpower, as well as beginning the grace period of the fifth trumpet, in my opinion. It's not until the great horn of the he-goat is broken, so to speak, that the New World Order emerges, which may very well be the result of what most people will perceive as an alien invasion, when it'll actually be Satan and his angels arriving to Earth at the woe of the fifth trumpet, and the flying vehicles written of in Revelation chapter 9 verse 9, as well as Joel chapter 2 verse 15, Daniel's fourth beast being exclusively supernatural because it's made up of Satan and his fallen angel locust army. So we're not in Revelation 13 yet. Not only are there still wars and rumors of wars, but again, the United Nations has to be broken, so to speak, as you can see in Daniel chapter 8 verse 8, those four notable ones that come up for it toward the four winds of heaven being the four beasts of Daniel chapter 7, the New World Order as it's called, which is the beast with 7 heads and 10 horns written of in Revelation 13, the 7 heads being symbolic of the 7 continents of the planet Earth, and the 10 horns being the 10 fallen angel kings who are part of Daniel's fourth beast also, because obviously they're supernatural as well, cast from heaven to earth at the woe of the fifth trumpet along with Satan and the rest of his fallen angels, which might possibly be depicted as an alien invasion, but in all reality they're Satan and his angels, and once they're cast from heaven to earth is when the so-called New World Order emerges, after which it will receive a deadly wound, which is when Satan appears as the false Christ in Jerusalem at the woe of the sixth trumpet, and the one world political system at that time will become a one world religious system. The true Christ won't return at all until the woe of the seventh trumpet, immediately after the 5-month-long hour of temptation. And as the true Christ says in the last verse of Mark chapter 13, what I say unto you, I say unto all, watch.
Let me warn you,
A new world order.
and let me warn the nation.
A new world order.